What's up, guys? I hope y'all are having a good day. In this video, I'm going to show you how to play against the Ruy Lopez Exchange is black, and it can be kind of annoying if you don't know what to do against it, but I'm going to give you some simple, practical ways to beat it. So let's get into it. So it starts like this: e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop e5, a6, and then they take our knight right here. We take back, and this is essentially the starting position of the exchange variation. So here, they can take the knight, and I'm not going to analyze this too deeply, but this is a bad move because you can bring your queen up here, and you hit the knight and the pawn, and you're just going to take this, and you're going to get a slightly better position because you can't castle anymore. So we're mainly going to focus on what happens if they actually know what they're doing. Here, white has a few different moves. They could castle, they could play d4, they could play knight c3. We're going to start by looking at what happens if they play d4. They're immediately striking at the center, and we're just going to play the most natural response. We're just going to take it back. And here, they could either recapture with the knight or with the queen. So let's say they recapture the queen first. Here, we don't really have many options. We could try to block, but this queen is kind of centralized, so might as well just get rid of it. Take. And now we're in an endgame. And I think this is kind of the important part to remember. I'll show you guys a game I played where I kind of played the wrong plan and I got a pretty difficult position. But essentially, the plan here is that we're going to go bishop d7 and we're going to castle queenside, because we want the king over here in a lot of cases to protect these pawns, because they kind of end up being targeted by this bishop. So it's nice to have the king over here. So we're going to go bishop d7. He just develops the knight. We're going to castle queenside. And then the most logical move for him is to castle kingside. And you've already gotten a pretty good position. You don't really have to remember much after this point, but I'll just show you guys a few more moves. Here I was taught to go rook e8 and just immediately put pressure on this pawn. And if you see, the knight is defending this pawn. So once he develops a piece, we're going to bring the bishop here and just try to take it and get this pawn. He kind of has to defend. And now, once he defends that pawn, we're going to play f5. Because at the core of this position, if we look back here, after he plays e4 and we take, his plan here is essentially to use his kingside majority and try to push it against our 3 pawns. He has 4, we have 3, so he wants to make a passed pawn here and eventually promote it. And for us, we have 2 bishops, because he just gave up his bishop here. So we want to try to open up the position for our bishops. So that's why if we look at this position, after f3, if we go f5, now let's just say he obliges with that. Well, actually, he can't even take here because we take his bishop. But at the end of the day, we're just trying to open up our bishop. Is if we were able to like recapture here with our bishop or our knight like this, in a perfect world, we're starting to open up the position for our pieces, and that's going to be good for us. So again, you don't need to remember all of this. I think the important thing to remember is you just kind of trade a bunch in the center, and then you're going to castle queenside. That's the heart of this position right here. And there are a bunch of ways to play it, but I think this is a pretty simple way to play it. So now let's look at what happens if they castle in this position. So here, he's attacking our pawn. So we have a few ways to defend that. We could bring the bishop here, but in this case, we're going to play the move f6, which you guys have probably heard, never play f6, but I mean, here it's not that big of a deal. He's not really developed at all, and we're probably going to end up castling queenside before he can really do anything. Now, white's most common move is just immediately striking the center with d4, and we're going to do the same thing. Take. And we've reached a really similar position here. It's just almost the same plan. We're going to bring the bishop, and we're just going to castle queenside. And here, like I said, this is pretty much all you need to know. You have a fine position, but just a couple more moves. Bring the rook there. And here he might want to go a3 to try to stop you from bringing the bishop out. And I mean, yeah, you can just play from here. You just bring the bishop to a natural square and keep going. So yeah, as we can see, it's the same plan. Castle queenside, bishop here, and try to open up the position. Probably there. But yeah, in this position, after they strike at the center, they could also take back with the knight. But now we're just going to kick the knight out of the way and trade queens. And we're just going to go into this endgame. Here, it's actually interesting. You're supposed to go bishop g4, and after he goes f3, you then drop back to d7, because there's supposed to be some kind of tricks with some checks here. But honestly, even if you don't remember that, even if you just play bishop d7, you just have a pretty fine position. You can go b6, solidify this pawn, bring the king here, just develop your pieces like you normally would. Rook here, after you castle queenside. A bunch of arrows, but you guys get the idea. You're just literally going to play naturally, develop pieces, castle queenside, rook here. Just natural stuff. And now, I want to show you guys one last thing here. So, we've seen what happens when they strike at the center with the move d4. We go we go f6, and here they're usually supposed to strike at the center with the move d4, but let's say they just play a move like knight c3. Then what are we gonna do? Well, since they did not play e4, we're just gonna stop them from doing that. So we're gonna play c5 now and completely clamp up on that. And from here, now that we've stopped d4, we have some very natural play. We can bring the knight here and just further control this square. You don't even have to put the knight here immediately. You can kind of just keep it here and just control the square. And then you can eventually start to push these pawns. But first, you can bring the bishop here, queen here, castle queenside. And you just have a really simple to play setup where you can just attack them on the king side. That's why they usually want to go d4, because then you kind of just get an easy position to play. Now we've seen some pretty common positions. Honestly, if you're low elo, they might just pull out some bullshit on move 5. So you might have to do some analysis on your own. But in general, it's good to just remember a lot of the times you're going to castle queenside. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of mainly it. Bring the bishop here. You want to clamp down on the square if they don't go d4. And yeah, so let me show you guys a couple games that I've played that might help you just lock in some of these ideas. Oh yeah, another thing that's good to remember is that as black, you want to try to at some point open the position, maybe with f5, and then take back with like a knight, and just try to open up the position because you have two bishops. All right, so in this game though, I'm playing black, and I didn't know any of that shit that I just tell you guys. So let's see how this game goes. So starts off how I showed, and he takes, I take e4. I literally never seen this before, so took me a while honestly, but I just took, and we ended up getting the main line. And you guys remember the move that I said here? The move that I said was bishop d7 and then castle queenside, but I didn't know that, so I just played pretty naturally. I played knight f6, just attack the pawn. He went f3 and solidified it. I just went c5, attack the knight, bishop d7, and then it looks like I was about to castle queenside, but I never did. And here, as you can see, remember how I said you want to try to go f5 and open up this position at some point? But here, since I brought the knight to f6, there's really no way I can do that. And now this pawn forever ended up being a weakness. He brought the bishop back to f4, and I ended up playing super passive. I didn't really know what to do. I think I was trying to bring my bishop here, but now he just starts bringing in his pieces. And you can see this is just super uncomfortable to play. Look at my pieces. I'm just stuck trying to defend this pawn, and I had to give up my only advantage, which is the bishop pair. And yeah, I think I ended up losing this game. He just sinks his teeth into my position, gets a pawn, and it's not very pleasant. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. We don't have to look at the rest of this, but it's already like +4. But yeah, that's what happens when you don't know the right plan. I think the main things I did that game that made it a little harder to play were honestly castling kingside and bringing the knight to f6, so I could never go here, and bring the bishop here because it's just staring at a brick wall. It's not doing anything there. So yeah, I got crushed that game. Here's a game I just played today, which is actually the reason I even made this video. It reminded me the Ruy Lopez Exchange. And here, takes, castles, and what's the move here? Come on, y'all know this. It is f6, and then he did not strike at the center with d4. So what are we gonna do now? We are going to play the move c5. So now he can never play d4, and watch how quickly this game ends. He develops a knight, and here, I said you can bring bishop here, queen here, castle queenside, which you can do, and honestly, I completely forgot about that. I just pinned the knight, which looked pretty natural to me, looked pretty annoying. He played h3, brought the bishop back, then played g4, brought the bishop back again. I mean, that all makes sense. He goes b3, which I didn't really get, and I just brought the queen up and prepared to castle queenside. As you can see, castling queenside, very common idea. He goes knight h4, and I just castle. Then he plays move a4, which I kind of get. I guess he's trying to start making an attack, but look at how much quicker we are to attack his king side. There's a really thematic move here that we can play to immediately start getting play on his king side. You guys see it. Pause the video real quick. Come on, y'all got this. So since he played h3 and g4, he's essentially created a hook for us, and he's essentially asking us to play the move h5, because if he takes, we're opening up this file for our rook, and it's gonna be devastating for him. So he can't take, and he just brings the knight back because there were some ideas of winning the knight. So he dropped it back, and I took, developed another piece, and attacked this pawn. And then he played the move f3. Here, there is a winning move. Pause the video, see if y'all can find it. So this is a case of where you need whole board awareness. So we're attacking on the king side, right? But now that he played the move f3, he weakened his diagonal, and we have the move queen to d4 check. This forks his king and his rook, and here he resigned. And I mean, he's at 2100, and we won in 15 moves. So, and we just played naturally. So when you know the plans, you can play naturally and still just outplay your opponents. We didn't do anything special here, and we still got a pretty solid win. So, alright, let me see if I can dig up one more game that we can look at real quick. Alright, this is the last game I got for y'all, so let's see it. So he takes, we take e4, and you guys remember the move here? It is, he takes d4, and then he takes with the queen, and the move here is to take with the queen, and then he's going to take back with the knight. Now, move is to, my bad, I keep doing that shit, but alright, now you're going to bring the bishop to d7, and just castle queenside like we said. And here, you don't need to remember this. The line that we looked at is knight c3 and then rook e8, and I played the move rook e8 because that's just what I know, and castle. And here I'm out of theory as well, so I was just playing chess at this point. c5 there, and it's just still the plan though. The plan is to try to open the position for our pieces. So he didn't take, which is probably smart. And I took, he took. I'm not gonna lie to y'all, we're really not any better here, but I mean that's just kind of how chess works sometimes. I mean, like he's playing pretty well, so it's not like we're just gonna get winning positions, especially in the exchange Ruy Lopez. A lot of times it tends to be Josh, but I'm just showing you guys how to play practically and get decent positions. If you're good at your middle games and your end games, you'll probably outplay your opponent from this. Okay, but anyway, so he's attacking this pawn now, so let's play the move b6. And here we kind of both just keep developing pieces. I mean, there's nothing special. I kind of opened up the position for my bishops, but he also has a pretty good knight right here. So yeah, I just kept developing and just traded all the pieces. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty drawish. I mean, I'd rather play black here because we have the two bishops, but he also has 3 pawns here. But I mean, it's pretty much a draw. It's equal, but not a draw, actually. You can still outplay your opponent from this, sure. And I mean, I just started bringing my king up. We don't even really need to see the rest of this because it just went into just a flag fest. I just moved my king back and forth. But we ended up getting an equal position from this. And I mean, that's just how it goes sometimes. I ended up flagging him after like 100 moves. Yeah, we got to move 106. And I ended up wondering the bishop, but matter about the time. But yeah, I hope that gave you guys a better idea of how to play against this opening. And if you enjoyed, please like and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace out.